Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Elijah Winslow Show. Today we're going to be talking about the Sabbath. It's going to be a pretty quick episode today because I'm working on a mini-series that will be out soon for you. But excuse my kind of nasally voice today. I have a pretty rough deviated septum, and when I don't hit cardio for a couple days, it gets worse. So yeah, you're just going to have to deal with that. Also, when I drink caffeine and I'm like mildly anxious, my voice goes from down here to kind of up more like a nasally voice. So I'll do my best to, I don't know, fix it for you guys, whatever. Let us talk about the time that I worked for more than 40 days straight. As a Christian, this is a big no-no. We're told to take Sabbaths. But let me give you some context as to why I did it. Because I think it was pretty impressive, and I learned a lot from it. I was at school. I'm a pre-med student, and I work as an EMT. I work as an instructional assistant, and I do an enormous amount of schoolwork. I'm the president of 2 clubs, the vice president of 1. I'm the captain of one of the EMS programs. I do a lot with my life. And so there was a time period where kind of a lot of stuff hit me. At the same time, I was taking a bunch of courses. I'm taking a very fast course walk. And so I felt like I needed to work every single day to just keep from drowning in things to do. So I worked for 40 days straight, either studying very hard, working as an EMT, working as an IA, or doing schoolwork. I had class 5 days a week and then club events on Saturdays, EMT shifts on Sundays. It was rough stuff. And about a little before spring break, I took a step back and I realized that, wow, I am the most depressed I've been since 2023 when I got my heart broken by my high school crush. I'm tired. I'm not sleeping enough. I'm not in good physical condition. My anxiety is the worst it's ever been. I was, again, people didn't really notice, but I felt it. It was very, very hard on me. And so my grades were the lowest they'd been, and I just couldn't figure it out. And the solution was standing right before my eyes. So I decided to try to take a few Sabbaths. And I worked on it a little bit, and over spring break, I got to take a big step back. And I looked at my life, and I realized, wow, I am letting the people around me push me to work at a feverish but useless pace for way too long. I'm not doing deep focus. I'm doing low importance tasks, and I'm not taking a day off. And so what this resulted in was all the things that I've explained before that were very, very bad for me. So I started taking a Sabbath, and I pulled off one of the greatest grade turnarounds I've ever had. I ended up getting an A in genetics. On the 2 final exams, I got 100 and a 95. To pass the class with a 93.001 or something. It was like a perfect comeback. It felt so good. And I did it very much so by cutting out useless junk and taking advantage of Sunday. Of really trying to do as little as possible on Sunday and focus on recovery. And so my dad has a similar story of neighbors of his. Excuse me, guys. I'm drinking an Olipop. Not sponsored, by the way. Why would I be sponsored? I have 4 viewers. I feel like it's annoying when people in podcasts drink drinks, but I enjoy it, so you're going to have to bear with me. If you hate it, please leave a comment. If you like it, just leave a comment no matter what. If you've made it 4 minutes and 57 seconds or whatever this is of me talking, good for you, dude. But my dad has a story about his parents' farm versus the neighbor's farm. And so my dad's parents were big, we work hard, we work every day. And so they did. My father's father, so my grandfather, would work 7 days a week for most of his life. And the farm never really succeeded that well. Versus their neighbors, who the guys worked Monday through Friday. They took an early day on Friday. They never did work on Sunday. They were very patient, and they just did what had to be done. And their farm was far more successful. And this is because the amount of time you work actually matters very little. What matters is the work that's being done and how effectively you rest to maximize the work that you're doing. And so before we get into kind of some of the research on this, I want to have a caveat. And I hate when people talk about rest. Like 9 times out of 10, if I hear somebody, and like I am in a Christian circle, but in most circles, if I hear somebody talking about rest, I want to go for their throat. It is so annoying because the worst people are almost always the ones that are telling you to rest. Like, the most degenerate, most loser, least productive people are always telling me how rest has really changed their lives. And I'm like, dude, change your lives for what? To do less? Like, what are you optimizing for? Watching TV? So that always irritates me. The amount of times I have had to sit through some overweight, out of shape, youth leader, guy or girl, doesn't matter, that is telling me, that is looking at me in the eyes and bashing us over the head with the Bible about thou shalt not be productive, and then masking it as rest is so important, the Sabbath is so important. And so I've heard some other podcasts talk about this, about the people, say there's 2 extremes, right? There's never work, always work. The people on the wrong extreme almost always adopt the piece of advice that was designed for the other extreme as kind of this confirmation bias. It's a play on confirmation bias where these people are looking for something to protect their view, and so they take a piece of advice that was designed for a different group of people. And I have named this. This is an Elijah Winslow psychological theory. The permission slip effect. So my definition of this would be advice intended to correct one extreme is often taken by the people of the opposite extreme because it gives them permission to keep doing what they already do. So that is the permission slip effect. An example, I'm going to give you a few examples because I love this psychological theory. I've been playing with it. Chris Williamson brings up a lot of the time, Me Too, right? Guys, please stop hitting on women. It's making us really uncomfortable. Just please stop. There was a very, very small percentage of guys that was sexualizing women, being very rude to women up front, and hitting on them like very overtly. Okay, these guys did not care what the women think. And so through Me Too, they were like, bro, I didn't care what you thought then, and I don't care what you think now. They kept hitting on women and making women uncomfortable. Meanwhile, every other guy that was already a little bit anxious to go talk to women and would have never sexualized, would have never demeaned or made women feel uncomfortable or objectified. They were sincerely just looking to get to know that person. The people with good intentions, they stopped hitting on women. They took the wrong advice, right? They took the permission slip effect. They were already anxious, and then the women said no and said, okay, we're out. And the wrong people didn't take the advice. So don't do that. If you're a degenerate, please work hard. But I actually think this advice discussing the Sabbath and some of the research I'm going to get into is great for everybody, even if you're a big chud. So our next section is going to be about rest actually increasing performance. I'm going to give you 2 studies that are similar, one specifically on the Sabbath and one's a little broader, but they're very important. Researchers studying high-level violinists found that the best performers did more deliberate practice, but they did not grind continuously. Their uninterrupted practice sessions generally lasted an hour to an hour and a half. Practice was distributed across the day, and the two highest performing groups napped more than their music teachers. The violinists also rated sleep as highly relevant to improving their performance. And this is from 1993. We're done with the 90s. I know. Michael Jordan is not the GOAT, but the research is still good. So what they found was volume of work is actually very not correlated with success. Success is correlated with the best work, which makes sense. But it is surprisingly easy when you get into the grind set, I'll call it, to confuse sloppy, low effort, high volume work with effective work. And I did this. When I took 40 days without resting or more, I was confusing my sloppy, low effort, low yield work with high effort work. And so the goal of life is to rest as much as effectively as possible, to work when you need to at the maximum efficiency, the maximum effectiveness, the maximum output, the maximum growth. And so you have to balance these two things with I need to work a lot, but I need to rest as much as possible when I'm not doing high volume, high effort work. Alex Hormozi, I remember being astounded when I found out that Alex Hormozi would come home after a pretty normal length day of work and just watch a movie with his wife. And of course that makes sense. He's a human. We all rest, right? But two of the most successful people in the world, Alex and Leela Hormozi, they're not skipping out on going to dinner. They're not skipping out on watching a movie with their spouse. They're having a good time when they are not working. And so we need to get out of this performative, because this is what it really is. You're putting on a performance of work. The performance is mostly for yourself. There are people that are performative workers. And what I took away from this is one of the 7 days that you're working, take any one of them a week, probably one of them is pretty much useless. But when you're working 7 days in a week and you still have a useless day, you also don't have a good day to recover completely. So by devoting one day to recovery, you're opening up 6 other days, or 5, it doesn't matter, to focused work. And so my approach for this semester is going to be try to schedule as much rest recovery time, social and emotional gratification time, so that I don't performatively work 7 days a week and then spend an hour and a half of the day on my phone on Instagram looking for social connection because I'm not talking to people, I'm not recovering, I'm not building important relationships, I'm not giving my body the rest it needs, I'm not sleeping like I need, right? There is a psychological theory, I'm blanking on the name, but it says when you're stressed, you cope. And the 3 most common coping mechanisms are aggression and anger, anxiety, and addiction. And so most people go to one of those 3 things. I definitely lean towards more addiction. My addictions aren't toxic. I'm not a porn-addicted gooner or a drug addict or, a violent criminal. But I will just I'll just watch movies, I'll watch Instagram, I'll watch sports when I really need to be sleeping or when I really need to be hanging out with a real person and having a good conversation. So I think it's really important to schedule in time to recover, to take care of yourself. But you can't do this maximizing recovery and then do the Instagram and waste your time when you should be working. You still have to work. There's no getting around it. The work must be done. When I hear people talk about, I don't want to work. It's not unfair that I have to work. Why can't we live in a socialist utopia where nobody has to work? Are you serious? Do you know what breathing is? Do you really feel like getting up every single morning? Homeostasis? Have you ever heard of it? It's the biological principle of work. Okay? When we stop working, we die. Equilibrium with the environment is death. If that went over your head, or if that was like pre-med slop, ignore me. But the point is, we're optimizing for something. So that's study number 1. You need to rest as much as possible, sleep, take care of yourself, and then do focused work. Study number 2 is a cross-sectional analysis of the relationship between Sabbath practices and burnout. This was published in the Journal of Religion and Health, and it studied roughly 1,300 Christian school teachers and found a statistically significant association between Sabbath keeping and lower burnout. So this makes complete sense, and it's one of the strongest pieces of research on Sabbath and burnout, because 1,300 is a great population size for a piece of research like this. So when we're looking at the Sabbath, we need to realize that the point of the Sabbath is it is for our good. You know, Jesus says, man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath for man. We need to not just take that as, oh, we can do whatever we want with the Sabbath. We need to take that as, oh, this is a good thing for me to follow. Now, if your life is dependent on eating and there's grain in a field, don't be some legalistic slob and say, oh, nope, that's work. I can't eat. I can't heal on the Sabbath. I can't do good on the Sabbath. That's what Jesus was critiquing. But we don't really have that struggle in our culture. We're pretty fine with doing things on the Sabbath and doing work. We're just not resting. And so a big takeaway for me, and this my little summary of this research didn't give it justice as to how they quantified taking the Sabbath, but they broke down a bunch of Sabbath taking behaviors, like I go to church, I eat dinner with my family, I abstain from work, I don't assign homework, I don't grade homework, stuff like that. It can be quantified with how well these people rested on the Sabbath, and they use that to relate to burnout. So it's not just saying like, oh, I don't work today. It's like actually, this isn't a passive thing. This is active rest, recovery, reflection. That's a very important word. Like, how did my week go? How can I improve next week? Like, what went well, what went poorly? We are so overwhelmed with information in our environment. Like, if you looked behind the screen right now, like behind the camera that's videoing me, there is probably 250 books on a bookshelf at my parents' house. I let them live with me. I'm a good guy. But we are overwhelmed with information, and most people do not have the time to process that. I think that's why anxiety is such a huge factor in America. When you build up months of content and information intake, and you never get a chance to process it. Like, some people, the only time they're not intaking content is when they're sleeping, and they're sleeping 6 hours a night. Oh my goodness. And you wonder why you're depressed and you have migraines and you can't think well and you're on an SSRI or SNRI. Bro, please do yourself some good. Sleep, rest, and get off the freaking device. Anyway, it's a little rude. It's not even remotely rude. It's just true. So yes, here's the takeaway. You need to work the hardest. You need to outwork everybody if you can. Not really, but if you're trying to be a high performance person, but then you need to stop working. You need to have a hard line, and then you need to rest. I struggle with this because it is so easy for me to feel accomplished when I quote unquote do something, when I'm quote unquote working, right? Because I've set work as a goal, not the outcome as a goal. So I'll bring in one more thing, and this isn't exactly the Sabbath, but one of my professors throughout med school, he was a top med school student, and every Friday and Saturday night, without fail, for the first 2 years and some of his final years at med school, he went out and partied. He didn't get completely wasted, but he went out and partied every Friday and every Saturday night. That's ridiculous. And I remember thinking, like, how could you possibly pull that off? Like, I'm working 7 days a week and I'm not keeping up with you. But the point is having times when you're on work mode and having times when you're on rest mode. And ideally, making those two things as separate as possible. Do not let them bleed together. And this is my big takeaway. So, yes, take off, don't do paid employment on the Sabbath, but also take the Sabbath as a hard off switch. Now, for me, I like to do Anki. I like to do flashcards every single day. I'll still do them on Sundays because, quite frankly, it's something I like. And also, I have a streak that's 317 days long, so I don't want to lose my streak. But yes, deliberately recover, take care of yourself, and take a Sabbath. So that's the rant. Yeah, if you have any questions, you know where to find me. Just DM me at Elijah_Winslow. I know my last name's actually Winslow, but on Instagram I flipped it. Yeah, I always want you to know that I care about you. If you made it to the end of this 21-minute podcast, thanks for watching. And I'm very excited about my next series. I'll give you a little hint because I'm going to be working on it directly after recording this. But I'm going to be on for you guys out there. You like a girl. What are you going to do about it? And how are you going to approach that situation? It'll be very fun. If you're one of my, I don't know, one of the 5 people that watches this is probably a girl. So if you are, it's good to get into enemy territory sometimes and learn the other side's strategies. I think I have I have a very good approach to looking at asking people out. I think up until like a serious relationship, I'm fully sanctioned to give advice on. There's a very small population that is somewhat respectful of women and also knows how to pull. I don't mean to be like rude, but can also attract women. There are not many guys that do both effectively. And I do my best to do both. So that's what I'm going to be working on. It's going to be slop, guys. My podcast will not be good for probably 5 or 10 years. Just hang in with me. And yeah, I'm hoping to get to 100K in like 5 to 10 years and then like 1 million in 15. But the biggest thing is just I'm going to keep recording these. And we're going to keep going. Again, we are almost a top 1% podcast. This is ridiculous. Most podcasts do not make it past episode 20. So, I will see you soon. You have a great day, guys.